Robert Louis Stevenson. Treasure Island. Chapter 16. Narrative continued by the doctor. How the ship was abandoned. It was about 1:30, 3 bells, as sailors say, when the 2 boats left the Hispaniola and went ashore. The captain, the squire, and I were in the cabin, talking things over. If there had been any wind, we would have attacked the 6 mutineers who stayed on the ship with us, cut the cable, and sailed away. But there was no wind, and to make things worse, Hunter came down and told us that Jim Hawkins had taken a boat and gone ashore with the others. We never thought Jim Hawkins would betray us, but we were afraid for his safety. The men were in a dangerous mood, and we thought it was very possible we would never see the boy again. We went up on deck. The hot pitch in the ship's seams was bubbling. The bad smell made me feel sick. It smelled like disease, like fever and dysentery. The anchorage was a terrible place. The 6 bad men were sitting under a sail in the front part of the ship, complaining. On shore, we could see the small boats tied up, with a man sitting in each, near where the river reached the sea. One of them was whistling Lily Bolero. Waiting was difficult, and we decided that Hunter and I should go ashore in the small boat to find out what was happening. The other boats had turned a little to the right, but Hunter and I rowed straight ahead, toward the stockade marked on the map. The 2 men guarding the boats seemed surprised when they saw us. The whistling stopped, and I could see them talking about what to do. If they had gone to tell Silver, things might have been very different. But they had their orders, I think, and decided to stay where they were, and soon began to whistle Lily Bolero again. There was a small curve in the coast, and I steered so that it came between us and the boats. Even before we landed, we could no longer see them. I jumped out and moved forward as quickly as I dared. I had a large silk handkerchief under my hat to keep cool, and I had 2 pistols ready, loaded for safety. I had not gone more than 100 yards when I reached the stockade. This is what it was like. A spring of clear water came out of the ground near the top of a small hill. On this hill and around the spring, they had built a strong wooden house. It was big enough to hold about 40 people if needed, and it had small holes in the walls for shooting guns. Around the house, they had cleared a wide space. Then they built a fence about 6 feet high. It had no door or opening. It was too strong to break quickly and too open to protect attackers. The people inside the house had a great advantage. They could stay safe and shoot the others easily, like birds. All they needed was someone to watch and enough food. Without a surprise attack, they could hold the place even against many soldiers. What I liked most was the spring. On the Hispaniola we had a good place in the cabin, with many weapons and ammunition, and plenty of food and fine wine. But one important thing was missing. We had no water. I was thinking about this when suddenly I heard a cry across the island. It sounded like a man who was dying. I was not new to such things. I had served His Royal Highness the Duke of Cumberland, and I had been wounded myself at the Battle of Fontenoy. Still, my heart suddenly beat very fast. Jim Hawkins is dead, was my first thought. It is good to have been a soldier, but it is even better to be a doctor. In our work there is no time to hesitate. So I decided at once what to do and quickly went back to the shore and jumped into the small boat. Luckily, Hunter rowed very well. We moved fast, and soon we reached the ship, and I climbed on board. I found everyone shaken, which was natural. The squire was sitting down, as pale as a sheet, thinking about the trouble he had caused us. One of the 6 men in the front of the ship looked almost as bad. "There is a man," said Captain Smollett, pointing at him, "who is new to this kind of work. He almost fainted, Doctor, when he heard that cry. One more shock, and he will be on our side." I told the captain my plan, and together we decided how to carry it out. We placed old Redruth in the passage between the cabin and the front of the ship. He had 3 or 4 loaded guns and a mattress for protection. Hunter moved the boat under the back window, and Joyce and I began to load it with powder, guns, bags of biscuits, barrels of pork, a cask of cognac, and my important medicine chest. At the same time, the squire and the captain stayed on deck. The captain called out to the man in charge of the others. "Mr. Hands," he said, "there are 2 of us here, each with 2 pistols. If any of you 6 make any kind of signal, that man will be dead." They were very surprised, and after talking quietly together, they all went down below, perhaps thinking to attack us from behind. But when they saw Redruth waiting for them, they quickly turned back, and one of them came up on deck again. "Down, dog!" shouted the captain. The man disappeared at once, and for the moment we heard no more from those 6 frightened sailors. By now we had filled the small boat as much as we dared. Joyce and I climbed out through the back window, and we rowed toward the shore as fast as we could. This second trip made the men on shore take notice. The song Lily Bolero stopped again, and just before we lost sight of them behind a small point of land, one of them jumped ashore and ran away. I thought for a moment about changing my plan and destroying their boats, but I was afraid that Silver and the others might be nearby. If we tried too much, we might lose everything. We soon reached the shore at the same place as before and began to carry supplies to the blockhouse. All 3 of us made the first trip, carrying heavy loads, and threw our things over the fence. Then we left Joyce to guard them. Only 1 man, it is true, but with 6 guns, and Hunter and I went back to the boat and loaded ourselves again. We continued like this without stopping to rest until everything was moved. Then the 2 servants stayed in the blockhouse, and I used all my strength to row back to the Hispaniola. It may seem very brave that we took the risk of bringing another boatload, but it was not as dangerous as it sounds. The men on shore had more people, but we had more weapons. None of them had guns, and before they could come close enough to use pistols, we believed we could shoot at least 6 of them. The squire was waiting for me at the back window of the ship, and he was no longer weak or pale. He caught the rope and tied the boat, and we quickly began to load it again. We took pork, powder, and biscuits. Each of us, the squire, Redruth, the captain, and I, had only 1 gun and 1 sword. All the other weapons and powder we threw into the sea, into water about 4 or 5 meters deep. We could see the bright metal shining on the clean, sandy bottom below. By this time the tide was going out, and the ship was turning on its anchor. We could hear distant voices shouting near the 2 boats. This made us feel better about Joyce and Hunter, who were farther to the east, but it also told us that we had to leave quickly. Redruth left his place and climbed into the boat. We moved the boat to the back of the ship so that it was easier for Captain Smollett to join us. "Now, men," he said, "do you hear me?" There was no answer from the front of the ship. "I am speaking to you, Abraham Gray." Still no answer. "Gray," said Mr. Smollett louder, "I am leaving this ship, and I order you to follow your captain. I know you are a good man inside, and I believe you are not as bad as the others. I have my watch in my hand. I give you 30 seconds to join me." There was a pause. "Come on, my good man," the captain continued. "Do not wait so long. I am risking my life and the lives of these good gentlemen every second." Suddenly there was a fight, the sound of blows, and Abraham Gray ran out. He had a cut on his cheek from a knife, and he ran to the captain like a dog to its master. "I'm with you, sir," he said. The next moment, he and the captain jumped into the boat, and we pushed away and began to row. We were now away from the ship, but we had not yet reached the safety of the stockade.